Even without me saying anything, it sounds really loud. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Paramahansa Paridigacharya Astotora Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Vibhiti Pandaracharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paridigacharya Astotora Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Oh, I think we did 9 already. We did 9. We did 9 and 10. I remember 17. Oh, you're right. I'm way behind. Oh, yes. We did 18 too. I remember. Yes, I remember chanting those verses in the purport. We didn't do 19, I know. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 26th day of June, 2017 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 6 entitled Dhyana Yoga. Text number 19, page 274. Okay. Yadadipo navatasto Ningate sopamasmata Yogino yatachittasya Yunjato yogamatmanaha Yatadipo navatasto Ningate sopamasmata Yogino yatachittasya Yunjato yogamatmanaha Yatadipo navatasto Ningate sopamasmata Yogino yatachittasya Yunjato yogamatmanaha. Krishna Priya. Yatadipo navatasto Ningate sopamasmata Yogino yatachittasya Yunjato yogamatmanaha. Go ahead, Marcy. Yatadipo navatasto Ningate sopamasmata Yogino yatachittasya Yunjato yogam atmanaha. Devi? No? Okay. Yata as deepaha, a lamp, navatastaha, in a place without wind. Na does not, ingate waver. Sa, this upama, comparison, smita is considered, yoginaha, of the yogi, yatachittasya, whose mind is controlled, yunjataha, constantly engaged, yogam, in meditation, atmanaha, on transcendence. Translation. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self. Purport. A truly Krishna-conscious person, always absorbed in transcendence, in constant undisturbed meditation on his worshipable Lord, is as steady as a lamp in a windless place. Om Jnanatamrandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Okay. I think we read 20 to 23. But I'll just mention a few things on this. I have verse, and then we'll read this 20 to 23, which is a very important...
You said you were going to do that again.
I know. So that means we read it once before. Anyway, it's okay. No harm. So, this verse 19 describes a state of traditional yoga. Yoga means this meditative yoga. This chapter is called Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana means meditation. Meditation is like this 7th step of an 8-step process called Ashtanga Yoga. Ashta is 8, Anga means limbs. So there's 8 limbs or 8 steps in this Ashtanga Yoga. And it begins with basic moral principles, do's and don'ts, and then sitting, asana. The whole thing is sitting. You're controlling your senses, you're controlling your mind, you're controlling your breath. Everything is meant to be controlled. And for that reason, Krishna says, go alone. Go off to a secluded spot. You'll never be able to do it in a big city. You can try, you can fake it, but you're not going to succeed. So then there's this process of asana and then pranayama, which is this regulated breath control, which helps the whole point is to calm down the mind and focus it on the object of meditation. Now, Krishna makes it very clear a few verses back that he is the object of meditation, should be. But that's been lost somewhere in translation. And there's many processes of yoga where you meditate on a mandala, you simply meditate on the white light, you can meditate on so many different things, but it's not the real yoga. So it goes on from there, and then there's the withdrawal of the senses, which means that the subtle senses, you're withdrawing them, you're trying to control the different desires that have been established in your mind that you want a sense gratification. That's called pratyahara, means ahara means not consuming, so it means not consuming anything all around, being very austere. And then, and only then, are you ready for dharana. Now dharana means concentration. It's not meditation yet. This is the sixth step. And that means drawing the mind back and putting it on the object. And then it's wandering, drawing it back, concentration. This is sadhana, as it's difficult. And finally, if you get to the point where you have some steadiness in there, that's called dhyana. And this, a lamp in a windless place, means steady, 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 no wavering. That's called samadhi. And in the next 4 verses, he'll describe the results of that samadhi. The whole thing is calming the mind and clarifying and becoming absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. Now, in this tiny little purport, Prabhupada says, well, this is the description of a really Krishna-conscious person. But you'll see, Prabhupada was a perfect example of that. He was active all the time. He came to America, he was dealing with so many disciples, going here, going there, trying to sell his books, writing his books. There's no question of, there's a place, of course, for sitting and chanting japa, but mostly there's all kinds of activity. And yet, he's saying that a really Krishna-conscious person, the mind is still fixed on Krishna. This is dynamic meditation. Arjuna's a perfect example. He wanted to quit the battlefield. He didn't want to fight. He didn't want to fight this war. Now Krishna is right on his chariot. Krishna agreed to be his charioteer. Just see, God Almighty is sitting on his chariot as a servant. The charioteer is a servant, like a cab driver. It's not a very exalted position. But he took that position. Now when the time came, it was perfectly situated to instruct Arjuna in this yoga. He's instructing him from his seat in the chariot driver. So, Krishna is arguing to Arjuna, no, you're not going to be going off to the Himalayas and meditate. Arjuna said, I'll take sannyas. I'd rather do anything than fight this battle because I'll have to kill my friends and relatives and guru and everything. So he didn't want to do that. So he had this whole argument. But then he surrendered to Krishna, and he's taking instruction now. And the end result is that he's going to fight. Now, on the battlefield is the last place in the world where you're going to sit and meditate and control. How is that? How is that samadhi? That's the Bhagavad Gita. Within the activity itself, the activity is for Krishna. The mind is fixed on Krishna. The results are given to Krishna. Krishna is completely fixed in the mind, in spite of all the activities that are going on in the senses. This is dynamic yoga. This is Krishna consciousness, and this is feasible for us to practice also. So now we're going to read the results of this absorption, and they apply as well to devotees. And Prabhupada will describe how all of these wonderful states that he's describing here also apply to devotional service or Krishna bhakti. So I'll say each line, you can repeat. Yatro paramate chittam. This is text 20 to 23. Nirudham yoga sevaya. Yatra chayavatmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati sukhamatyantikam yattad buddhigrahi matindriyam beti yatra nachayavayam stitas chalati tattvataha yang labdva chapadam labham manyate nadikam tataha yasmin stito na dukkena guruna pibachalyate tam vidya dukkha sangyoga viyogam yoga sangitam. In that stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, One's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. And notice the capital Self indicates the Supersoul, Krishna within. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Purport. By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached from material concepts. This is the primary characteristic of the yoga principle. And after this, one becomes situated in trance or samadhi, which means that the yogi realizes the Supersoul through transcendental mind and intelligence, without any of the misgivings of identifying the self with the super self. The super self is the super soul, the same thing. Yoga practice is more or less based on the principles of the Patanjali system. Some unauthorized commentators try to identify the individual soul with the super soul, and the monists think this to be liberation. But they do not understand the real purpose of the Patanjali system of yoga. There is an acceptance of transcendental pleasure in the Patanjali system. But the monists do not accept this transcendental pleasure out of fear of jeopardizing the theory of oneness. The duality of knowledge and the knower is not accepted by the non-dualist. But in this verse, transcendental pleasure, realized through transcendental senses, is accepted. And this is corroborated by Patanjali Muni, the famous exponent of the yoga system. The great sage declares in his Yoga Sutras 434, Purushartha shunyanam gunanam pati prasavaha kaivalyam sarupa patishta va chitti shaktiriti. This chitti shakti, or internal potency, is transcendental. Purushartha means material religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and, at the end, the attempt to become one with the Supreme. This oneness with the Supreme is called kaivalyam by the monist, but according to Patanjali, this kaivalyam is an internal or transcendental potency by which the living entity becomes aware of his constitutional position. In the words of Lord Chaitanya, this state of affairs is called Cheto Darpana Marjanam, or clearance of the impure mirror of the mind. This clearance is actually liberation, or Bhavamahadavagni Nirvapanam. The theory of nirvana, also preliminary, corresponds with this principle. In the Bhagavatam 2.10.6, this is called Sarupena Vivastiti. The Bhagavad Gita also confirms this situation in this verse. Now, for our new guest, I'm going to explain some of this, hopefully in a way that you can understand. I'm just trying to visualize what this would be like if I read this for the first time. I'd be totally confused. I wouldn't know anything. So let's see if I can translate some of this. So the idea here is that Krishna consciousness philosophy is that originally, we as spirit souls are in a perfectly blissful condition. It's called Satchidananda state. In one of the main verses that we chant from another book, Krishna is described as having a Satchidananda Vigraha. His form is eternal, and is full of knowledge and bliss. So we have our form also like that, but our present form is clearly not like that. We're certainly not eternal. I hope I'm not eternal in this body. And full of knowledge, yeah, we have some knowledge, but there's a lot of ignorance there. And not always blissful. Who can say that we're always blissful? There's so many things that make us misery. So we're not in that state now, but in our original state we are. And so Krishna, from the beginning of the Gita, he stresses, first of all, changing our conception of who we are. We're spiritual beings. We're soul or spirit or consciousness, not this body. The body is a temporary vehicle for our soul in this particular incarnation. We also get reincarnated again and again. And when we're in this particular body, we completely identify with it. This is my gender, this is my age, this is my language and family and everything else, all pertaining to the particular body I'm in. But it's a temporary situation, 50, 70, 100 years max, and you're out. in a human form. Now there's other bodies too. They all have souls in them. The dogs, the cats, even the little bugs crawling on the ground. These flowers and trees, they're all living beings. And they all have a certain lifespan, and then they leave that body and go to another one. And gradually all the souls come up to the human form. Human form is special because we can understand this philosophy, and we can understand the system by which we can escape this imprisonment in birth and death, birth and death. This is not our natural state. So the general idea of getting out of this, condition, or what we probably call the conditioned state of the living entity, restricted, is yoga. Now yoga means to link up. What are we linking? What are we linking, and what are we linking to? We're linking our consciousness to the supreme consciousness. Now this is commonly called God, and that's a good first step, because it's important to realize that our personality resides in our consciousness. We're irreducible persons, and when we get into lower bodies, the personhood is simply suppressed and it's distorted. Just like the dogs and the cats, and they have their ears and they have their, feet, and they have even their personality. This is why people like them, right? But it's very rudimentary. And the lower you go in these species, due to sinful activities against God, God's law, nature's law, then the more it's distorted. Fish have more distortion. They have their eyes, but we certainly wouldn't be a fish. But it's just temporary. Everything is temporary in this world. So we come up to the human form, and now we have a chance to act in such a way that we can actually break out of this bond and regain our spiritual form and our spiritual function. Prabhupada quotes this verse, this part of a verse from Bhagavatam near the end of this page, 4 or 5 lines up. In the Bhagavatam 2.10.6, this is called Swarupena Vivastiti. So the idea is Swarup. It simply means your own original rupa, your own original form. It's just like we're all in what do they call it? When Halloween comes? A costume party, or a masquerade, right? So I remember as a kid, the whole idea is to try to dress up in such a way no one can recognize you, right? So if you're really good, you have makeup on, no one can see who is that. So, and what's the whole point? Is that, you kind of get into the mood of whoever you are, right? There's a whole thing down in the gas lamp down here and in LA, big Hollywood thing, they dress up like crazy, and people do things they wouldn't ordinarily do, because no one knows who they are. They identify with that person. Now, if you get hit on the head while you're carousing and you forget who you really are, and you look in the mirror, oh my God, am I, forgive me, my age, Napoleon, Abraham Lincoln, whoever I might be. In other words, if you get who you really are, then you have a problem. You're relying on your friends or someone to tell you, no, this is a costume, this is not who you really are. So we're all wearing these costumes. We've forgotten who we really are. None of us, I assume, can remember our previous life. Can you remember your previous life? No. But we know, if we remember this life, we can, like when you get older, the early ages, there's little highlights, but there's whole gaps in there, isn't it, that you can't remember? But there's, some highlights, emotional highlights you can remember. You certainly remember that you were that age. I remember when I was 13, I had a high point in my basketball career, which when I was about 13, before I even went to high school. It was a winter time and I was passionate. I would go out alone and shoot baskets, for a while. It was like a year, half a year. Then I went to high school and everything changed. But the point is, I can remember that because it was it was like an intense experience. So there's no question and I had, of course, a different body, different mind, everything. Now my body has changed. Certainly older, I'm the same person. What's the same about me? It's the soul. It's that irreducible soul called the Atma. And that Atma is part and parcel of the Supreme Atma. Prabhupada talks about the soul and the super soul here, the self and the super self. The super self is God, Krishna. He's present in everyone's heart. He's present in everyone's atom. He creates everything. And he also perfects, has the perfect example of what we would like to do. What we want to do is play all the time. Don't we want to have fun? Isn't it? Enjoyment. We want to have fun. We want to have beautiful relationships and love all the time, high experiences. But we can't. We're restricted by the body and so many other things, other people, and it's just not possible, though we'd like to. So that's what Krishna is. He's the supreme controller. All of the business of this, making this material world, running the material world, punishing the sinners, exalting the, those who are pious, giving them the heaven. He delegates all that. He delegates through expansions and those who he empowers especially. And then he's free to play in the spiritual world. And he has his intimate associates, his friends, his lovers, his parents, his cows, everything. It's all love. The cows love him as much as the gopis. There's just this, and it's adventurous too. Now, there's no demons in the spiritual world, but Prabhupada says there's a threat of demons, so that they'll have that rasa being saved by Krishna. There may be a demon. So, in other words, it's eternal happiness. That's what we're looking for. That's really what we're looking for. I mean, everybody in this material world, without knowing anything about transcendence or God or anything, is trying to maximize their happiness and their comfort and minimize their distress. Who isn't? Even the dogs and cats are doing that. But you can't do it in this world. It's just the way it works. I mean, recently, we're here in SanDiego, so we should probably keep up on these things. They discovered a big fault under us. The San Andreas is a fair number of miles to the east of us. That's the big one in California, right? When I first moved here, I looked at all the fault lines. I said, oh, that's good, it looks like SanDiego is, well, maybe we'll avoid the big one, So now they just discovered a fault that's very deep in the earth. And of course it's overdue by 700 years. And it's like, 3 or 4 blocks east of us, not miles. It's right here. And it's going under La Jolla, and they're saying, yeah, any day now, any moment. In other words, you may make your plans, but there's always something that's going to wreck it. The world economy, they're saying, is building up to another crash. The people who made it crash the first time didn't get put in jail. They're still gambling with your money, and they don't stop. Just like we're trying to achieve, as devotees, we have a certain goal in life. And this is our aspiration. We know that it's foolish to try to make $1 million. That's not even on the, we want to have some, material comfort, just enough. But we have our aspirations of purifying and perfecting this yoga process. And so many people have aspirations, Well, the big money people, the guys who climb to the top and crawl to the top, over everyone else's corpse, so to speak, they are not stopping. They're trying to make more money and more control, and control the earth if they can. And they see that maybe we can do it. And in the process of doing that, they're making our lives dangerous. They're causing danger for everybody. I don't have to extrapolate, anyone who reads the news. So the point is, in this situation, how can we hope to have any kind of material peace? It's not possible. But here we can see, and now this is on the battlefield, don't forget, that Krishna is talking about this. That he's giving Arjuna this description, and he's saying, basically, you surrender to me, you practice bhakti yoga perfectly, and you'll be in this state, even while fighting. Even when doing all this activity. This is the idea, is that your activity itself becomes a meditation. Because Krishna's he's given you the inspiration, his devotee has given the inspiration, you're following his book like that. So this whole, what Prabhupada is saying here, is that Patanjali is a writer who described this meditative yoga system. He's the authority for that. And Prabhupada is quoting, and he's saying that those who try to posit some kind of impersonal goal for this Patanjali yoga are actually wrong. Prabhupada is saying that this Chitti Shakti, this particular phrase that he quoted, indicates that there is an acceptance of this internal spiritual potency, which we know as Ladani Shakti, which is Radharani personified, or love personified in the form of Srimati Radharani. And so the yoga system ultimately also talks about that, and the perfect example is Kapila Muni. There's another book we have, a big multi-volume book called the Srimad Bhagavad Purana or Srimad Bhagavatam. And we're just now getting to Kapila Dev's teachings in the morning class. We're on chapter 24, and 25 is when he begins teaching his mother. His mother's a great yogini. And it's all about Sankhya, which means analyzing this material world, and then he talks about meditation, and it's all about meditation on the Lord within the heart, and he gives a beautiful description of that Lord within the heart, and ultimately he talks about Bhakti Yoga. It all culminates in Bhakti. The whole thing about Bhagavad Purana is it culminates in Bhakti. So, Srila Prabhupada also refers here to Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna himself, come in this age to teach us how to worship him in a practical means. And it's all centered on this mantra. This makes it easy. We don't have to go to the Himalayas. If we did, we couldn't do it anyway. We don't have to drill a respiration. All we have to do is learn how to chant Hare Krishna. This Hare Krishna mantra is very potent. It is the Maha Mantra. The mantra is a sound-releasing vibration. You repeat over and over again. The problem is the mind, saturated with material desires and material thoughts, and not steadied. The mind is now controlling us. And earlier in this chapter, you may remember, Krishna said, the mind can be your greatest friend, or it can be your worst enemy. Ask these poor soldiers who come back after their 6th tour in Iraq or Afghanistan, with PTSD, what they saw, what they went through, and what they're dealing with. You can't forget. The mind is, they're living with that. It can be a tremendous thing. So, any materially saturated mind is now, making us a victim. We're a victim to that. But we can learn to control the mind with a mantra. Mantra is a mind-deliberating or mind-controlling vibration. And this is the greatest one. It's composed of the names of God. Hare Krishna. Hare actually is this Chitti Shakti, is the Ladini Shakti personified, Srimati Radharani. Hara. You're addressing that internal energy, Hara, in the form of Hare. Krishna means all attractive. He can attract the mind away from Maya, away from illusion, away from this material world. And Rama is a name for Krishna, meaning the unlimited reservoir of spiritual pleasure, unlimited enjoyment. And we can take part in that by, first of all, just thinking of him in the form of this sound. And when you try chanting and concentrating, you realize how restless the mind is. That's your real sadhana. It's bringing the mind back. As Krishna says, from wherever and wherever, whatever and whatever the mind wanders, bring it back under the control of the self. That self is Krishna, and the most accessible form of that Krishna is the holy name. And so here, Srila Prabhupada quotes the first half of the first verse of the Shikshastika, Chaito Darpana Marjanam. This Shikshastika is Lord Chaitanya's only confirmed writings, but from those writings his whole philosophy flowed, and he taught his followers such as the Goswamis, and they wrote voluminous books. And so what does this mean? By chanting this name, especially in congregation, chanting, dancing, getting absorbed in that way, this is the result. He gives 7 metaphors. I'll run through it real quick because they're really nice. So the first one is Chaito Darpana Marjanam. Now Darpana is a mirror. The mirror of the heart, or the mirror of the mind, becomes polished, becomes cleansed. Right now, this mind mirror is covered with the dust of lust and other impurities, and so we can't see who we are. We can't really see ourselves. We're identifying with this body instead of with the soul. So by polishing or cleansing, wiping free the mirror of the mind, then Bhava Mahadavagni Nivapanam. What this means is that Bhava means birth and death. It literally means change. Change. You're born, then you change as you grow older, right? And another change comes, eventually you get disease, and eventually the big change comes, death. So birth, old age, disease, death. Birth, old age, disease. This is called Bhava, and it's compared to a big forest fire. The Vagni is a forest fire. Something that you can't get out of. It's very dangerous. But here it says Nirvapanam. It's extinguished. It's extinguished by the chanting, by polishing the mind. And then you can experience the great auspiciousness of this chanting. Shreya Kaidava Chandrika Vataranam. Vataranam means it causes to expand or blossom. The Shreya Kaidava It's the moonlight which falls on the night-blooming lotus of good fortune and causes to expand. What a beautiful metaphor. You may remember this word Shreya from back in the text 7 of chapter 2, where Arjun, he didn't know. Please tell me for certain how I can achieve my good fortune. What is best for me? He's been arguing, and now he realizes he's not getting anywhere, and so he's now relying on Krishna, his guru. He surrendered to his guru. So you tell me for certain how it can. So Lord Chaitanya is telling us, you chant Hare Krishna and your life becomes more auspicious. You'll get closer and closer to the ultimate good. That's what Shreya means. And then Vidyabhadu Jivanam, this knowledge, all this knowledge is deep within our heart and we've forgotten it. This is the problem. We can't access it. But by chanting and cleansing the mind and the senses, the knowledge naturally comes out, and it's all confirmed from outside by the books, by the great realized souls like Srila Prabhupada. So therefore the chanting is the life and soul of transcendental knowledge. Vidya, Vadhu Jivanam. Jivanam is life. And then this is Anandam Buddhivardhanam. We're right next to the ocean. How impressive it is. We walk down there. Such a huge amount of water. Now imagine if that was all bliss. The Anandam Buddhi, the ocean of bliss expands in your heart. In other words, there's no limit to your happiness that comes from this. That's our natural state, remember? Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratibadam Purnamita. And every step in your life, you can taste the nectar for which you're always anxious. So now, then the last line, Lord Chaitanya says, Sarvat Masnavadam, let everyone bathe their consciousness. Swapanam is a bath. Bathe your consciousness in the sound of the holy name. And Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. And let Lord Chaitanya's Lord Krishna's congregational chanting be victorious in this world. So I put it in a little poem. All glories to the chanting of Shri Krishna's holy names, which easily extinguishes samsara's blazing flames by polishing the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart. That chanting is the waxing moon that knows the secret art of causing the white lotus of good fortune to unfurl its petals far and wide throughout this bleak and blighted world. Of transcendental knowledge, which will take us to life's goal, the chanting of the name of Krishna is the life and soul. The ocean of ecstatic bliss floods far beyond its bounds, wherever Krishna's merciful and mystic name resounds. Indeed, whenever Krishna's names are sung in congregation, at every step one tastes a joy that knows no limitation. So hear with great attention as I earnestly request, please chant Shri Krishna's holy names and be supremely blessed. The soothing nectar of the name will bathe your consciousness, bestow pure love for Krishna, and eradicate distress. There it is. That's all we need. There's our yoga right there. So any questions on this half or one-third of purport? Or half of purport? And this Prabhupada loves to quote this part of this verse. Yang labdva chapadam labam manyane nadikam tita. Once gaining this state of samadhi, of absorption in Krishna, one will think there's no greater gain. Now just imagine that. What have we ever thought like that? As kids, maybe when we woke up on Christmas Day and our toy is there, we said, "Oh, this is this is the greatest thing in my life." 1 hour later, it turns with the toy, and you look. This is the mind. Oh, I want it. I got it. Not so good. I want it more this way, that way. This is the advertisements I try to do. What is Apple? I've got this thing here. I got an iPad, but they tried it now. This is just an iPad 4. What is use of this? You line up for 2 days and get you the iPad 5. Or the phone, so everyone can have a phone. But where is it, where is the peace? Where is the happiness from all of this craziness? There's never any peace. So, but with Krishna, what is it? Param Shanti. One can actually attain the supreme peace. Because you actually feel, once attaining this, there's no greater gain. There cannot be a greater gain. Okay. You're here. I thought you were gone. All right, so let's finish this purport, and we'll continue with 24 tomorrow. After Nirvana, so Prabhupada talked about Nirvana, he said this is also preliminary, right? Nirvana, Prabhupada, what is Nirvana? Finished. Material life is finished. Prabhupada said this is Nirvana. After nirvana, or material cessation, there is the manifestation of spiritual activities or devotional service to the Lord known as Krishna consciousness. In the words of the Bhagavatam, Swarupena Vavastati, he already quoted that, he's quoting it again, to be situated in your Swarup, your actual form, who you really are. And it doesn't mean you have to leave your body, even in this body you can experience it. This is the, quote, real life of the living entity, the soul, the Atma. Maya, or illusion, is the condition of spiritual life contaminated by material infection. Liberation from this material infection does not mean destruction of the original eternal position of the living entity. Patanjali also accepts this by his words, Kaivalyam Swarupa Pratishta Va Chitti Shaktiriti. So he's taking that Swarupa Pratishta, means situated in your actual eternal spiritual body. This is Chitti Shakti, or transcendental pleasure, is real life. This is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12 as Anandamayo Vyasat. This natural transcendental pleasure, what that means, I was not giving it. Anandamaya Vyasa means Krishna is made of bliss. Anandamaya means filled with bliss. Like you have this Karunamayi, someone is filled with mercy, a female form. A lot of ladies have Karunamayi, So Krishna is Anandamaya. He's filled with bliss at all times. And we're part and parcel of him, so that's our natural state. This natural transcendental pleasure is the ultimate goal of yoga and is easily achieved by execution of devotional service or bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga will be vividly described in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That's the next chapter. In the yoga system, as described in this chapter, there are two kinds of samadhi, called sampragyata samadhi and asampragyata samadhi. When one becomes situated in the transcendental position by various philosophical researches, he is said to have achieved sampragyata samadhi. In the asampragyata samadhi, there is no longer any connection with mundane pleasure, for one is then transcendental to all sorts of happiness derived from the senses. When the yogi is once situated in that transcendental position, he is never shaken from it. Unless the yogi is able to reach this position, he is unsuccessful. Today's so-called yoga practice, which involves various sense pleasures, is contradictory. A yogi indulging in sex and intoxication is a mockery. Even those yogis who are attracted by the siddhis or perfections in the process of yoga are not perfectly situated. If yogis are attracted by the byproducts of yoga, then they cannot attain the stage of perfection, as is stated in this verse. Persons, therefore, indulging in the make-show practice of gymnastic feats or siddhis should know that the aim of yoga is lost in that way. The best practice of yoga in this age is Krishna consciousness, which is not baffling. A Krishna conscious person is so happy in his occupation that he does not aspire after any other happiness. There are many impediments, especially in this age of hypocrisy, to practicing Hatha Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. That's the yoga, that's the gymnastics, Hatha Yoga, Dhyana Yoga meditation, and Jnana Yoga is like speculation, meditation, separating the spirit from matter. But there's no such problem in executing Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Karma is active. As long as the material body exists, one has to meet the demands of the body, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. But a person who is in pure Bhakti Yoga, or in Krishna consciousness, does not arouse the senses while meeting the demands of the body. Rather, he accepts the bare necessities of life, making the best use of a bad bargain, and enjoys transcendental happiness in Krishna consciousness. He is callous toward incidental occurrences, such as accidents, disease, scarcity, and even the death of a most dear relative. But he is always alert to execute his duties in Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga. Accidents never deviate him from his duty. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 2.14, Agamapayino nityas tangstitikshrasa bharata. He endures all such incidental occurrences because he knows that they come and go and do not affect his duties. In this way he achieves the highest perfection in yoga practice. So that brings us to 8 o'clock, and we are going to pick that up tomorrow, text 24. But right now, we're going to read from Krishna book. Is that okay? Okay. Yes. Okay, let's see. I forgot what chapter we're on, but I trust the iPad will remind me now. Oh yes, so we've just heard about the killing of this big demon named Aghasura. You've heard of shape changing. Who hasn't heard of shape changing? Well, this is a real thing. The yogis who get these powers, these siddhis, by severe austerity, practice of yoga. And it's a neutral thing. You can use yoga or siddhis for evil as well as good, these powers. So these are like demons. They tried to kill Krishna, and they take different forms. So this particular demon took a shape of a big python, 8 miles long. And he swallowed Krishna's friends, and he was waiting for Krishna to enter. He did enter, but Krishna expanded and choked the demon, brought his friends back to life, and then the demon's spirit soul merged into Krishna. And then after that adventure, they had lunch. And when Brahma was watching this, he says, "What's going on? You know, this little boy is so powerful, I don't get it." So he tested him. He put his friends and his cows under a mystic slumber for a whole year. And so Krishna, just to show his powers, he expanded in identical forms of all the calves, they're actually calves, and boys, and he continued for a whole year, as if nothing had happened. But on all the parents, the mothers, and the cows who were, you know, fondling their children, they were actually fondling Krishna. So the ocean of love, which was already there, expanded unlimitedly, because everybody was intimately serving Krishna. So this Balaram saw an incident happen where these cows, they couldn't be restrained. They had to come down and lick the bodies of these calves who were actually already grown. So Balaram says, "What's going on? There's too much love here." So he's asking Krishna about this. And so Balaram inquired from Krishna about the actual situation. He said, "My dear Krishna, in the beginning I thought that all these calves and cowherd boys were either great sages and saintly persons or demigods, but at present it appears that they are actually your expansions. They're all you. You yourself are playing as the calves and boys. What is the mystery of this situation? Where have those other calves and boys gone? And why are you expanding yourself as the calves and boys? Will you kindly tell me what is the cause?" At the request of Balaram, Krishna briefly explained the whole situation, how the calves and boys were stolen by Brahma, and how he was concealing the incident by expanding himself so people would not know that the original calves and boys were missing. While Krishna and Balaram were talking, Brahma returned after a moment's interval, according to the duration of his life. Now this is like, Brahma has a lifespan. Are you ready for this? 311 trillion, 40 billion years. So, but he only lives 100 of his years. So one of our years is just like a split second for him. As they say, time is relative, totally relative. So he came back after a second to see what was going on, because he really didn't want to hurt the cows and boys. And then he was bewildered. This is the whole Brahma Vimohan Leela. So we have information of Brahma's duration of life from the Bhagavad Gita. 1,000 times the duration of the 4 ages, or 1,000 times 4,320,000 years constitute Brahma's 12 hours. Similarly, 1 moment of Brahma's time is equal to 1 year of our solar calculation. After 1 moment of Brahma's calculation, he came back to see the fun caused by his stealing the boys and calves. But he was also afraid that he was playing with fire. Krishna was his master, and he had played mischief for fun by taking away his calves and boys. He was really anxious, so he did not stay away very long. He came back after a moment of his calculation. It's right here, parenthesis. He saw that all the boys and calves were playing with Krishna in the same way as when he had come upon them, although he was confident that he had taken them and made them lie down asleep under the spell of his mystic power. Brahma began to think, all the boys and calves were taken away by me, and I know they are still sleeping. How is it that a similar batch of cows and boys is playing with, calves and boys are playing with Krishna? Is it not that they are not influenced by my mystic power? Have they been playing continually for 1 year with Krishna? Brahma tried to understand who they were and how they were uninfluenced by his mystic power, but he could not ascertain it. In other words, he himself came under the spell of his own mystic power. The influence of his mystic power appeared like snow in darkness or a glowworm in the daytime. In other words, very insignificant. During the night's darkness, the glowworm can show some glittering power, and the snow piled up on the top of a hill or on the ground can shine during the daytime. But at night, the snow has no silver glitter, nor does the glowworm have any illuminating power during the day. Similarly, when the small mystic power exhibited by Brahma, who is after all the engineer of the whole universe, but compared to Krishna, he's a fig, as Prabhu would say, exhibited by Brahma, was before the mystic power of Krishna, it was just like snow at night or a glowworm during the day. When a man of small mystic power wants to show his potency in the presence of greater mystic power, he diminishes his own influence. He does not increase it. Even such a great personality as Brahma, when he wanted to show his mystic power before Krishna, became ludicrous. Prabhupada likes this word. Ludicrous means invoking laughter. It's a little more dynamic than ridiculous, but it's the same idea. Brahma was thus confused about his own mystic power. In order to convince Brahma that all those calves and boys were not the original ones, the calves and boys who were playing with Krishna transformed into Vishnu forms. Suddenly they're all Vishnu, with 4 hands and everything. Brahma's like this. No, he's really bewildered now. Actually, the original ones were sleeping under the spell of Brahma's mystic power. But the present ones, seen by Brahma, were all immediate expansions of Krishna, or Vishnu. Vishnu is the expansion of Krishna. So the Vishnu forms appeared before Brahma. All the Vishnu forms were of bluish color and dressed in yellow garments. All of them had 4 hands decorated with club, disc, lotus, and conch. On their heads were glittering golden helmets inlaid with jewels. They were bedecked with pearls and earrings and garlanded with beautiful flowers. On their chests was the mark of Shrivats. Their arms were decorated with armlets and other jewelry, and their necks were just like conch shells. Their legs were decorated with bells, their waists with golden belts, and their fingers with jeweled rings. Brahma also saw that upon the whole body of each Lord Vishnu, from the lotus feet up to the top of the head, fresh tulsi leaves and buds had been thrown. He's our tulsi gardener now. He's doing a very good job. Degree in something? Botany? Or degree in organic horticulture. What could be more auspicious than he would come and take care of tulsi? And she has improved greatly. And, I'm sorry. Okay, both. We have both tulsi gardeners here. So there's tulsi leaves everywhere and tulsi manjaris, as we say. Another significant feature of the Vishnu forms was that all of them were looking transcendently beautiful. Their smiling resembled the moonshine, and their glancing resembled the early rising of the sun. Just by their glancing, they showed themselves to be the creators and maintainers of the modes of ignorance and passion. Vishnu represents the mode of goodness. Brahma represents the mode of passion. Shiva represents the mode of ignorance. Therefore, as the maintainer of everything in the cosmic manifestation, Vishnu is also the creator and maintainer of Brahma and Shiva. After this manifestation of Lord Vishnu, Brahma saw that many other Brahmas and Shivas and demigods and even insignificant living entities down to the ants and very small straws, movable and immovable living entities, were dancing, surrounding Lord Vishnu, all the Vishnus. Their dancing was accompanied by various kinds of music, and all of them were worshipping Lord Vishnu. Brahma realized that all those Vishnu forms were complete in mystic power, from the Anima perfection, becoming small like an atom, up to becoming infinite like the cosmic manifestation. All the mystic powers of Brahma, Shiva, all the demigods, and the 24 elements of cosmic manifestation were fully represented in the person of Vishnu. By the influence of Vishnu, all subordinate mystic powers were engaged in his worship. He was being worshipped by time, by space, by the cosmic manifestation, reformation, desire, activity, and the 3 qualities of material nature. Vishnu, Brahma, Lord Vishnu, Brahma realized, is the reservoir of all truth, knowledge, and bliss. He is the combination of 3 transcendental features, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. I'm sorry, this thing is causing me great anxiety here. What to do? Oh, now it's behaving. He is the combination of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Okay, let me see if this works. Okay. And he is the object of worship by the followers of the Upanishads. Brahma realized that all the different forms of boys and calves transformed into Vishnu forms were not transformed by a mysticism of the type that a yogi or a demigod can display, but by specific powers invested in him. The calves and boys transformed into Vishnu Murtis, or Vishnu forms, were not displays of Vishnu Maya, or Vishnu's energy, but were Vishnu himself. The respective qualifications of Vishnu and Vishnu Maya are just like fire and heat. In the heat there is the qualification of fire, namely warmth, and yet heat is not fire. The manifestation of the Vishnu forms of the boys and calves was not like the heat, but was rather the fire. They were all actually Vishnu. Factually, the qualification of Vishnu is full truth, full knowledge, and full bliss. Another example can be given with material objects, which are reflected in many, many forms. For example, the sun is reflected in many water pots, but the reflections of the sun in the many pots are not actually the sun. There is no actual heat or light from the suns in the pots, although they appear like the sun. But the forms which Krishna assumed were each and every one full Vishnu. The specific word used in this connection is Satya Jnananandananda. Satya means truth, Jnana full knowledge, Ananta unlimited, and Ananda full bliss. The glories of the Supreme Lord are so great that the impersonalistic followers of the Upanishads cannot reach the platform of knowledge to understand them. And we're going to stop right there and complete this chapter tomorrow. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for your attention. You can see what Prabhupada said, or just read Krishna book and go back to Godhead. Yeah. Nibisasa Sundravari Asanta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Mo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Mo, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radha. Jai Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radha. Gopemanande Haribo. Jai Mr. Bhagavad Paramahansa Bhagavadgita Ashtottara Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace. Vallada Vallada Dayine Hiranyakashipo Vakshaha Ashilatanka Nakaraye Hiton Shingo Paraton Shingo Yato Yato Yamitaton Singha Bayin Shingo Didnayin Shingo Yasinhamading Sharanang Prapaje Tapakara Kamala Vare Naka Anbhuta Shringa Andarita Hiranyakashipu Tanum Bringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Tavakara Kamala Vare Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Antabakara Kamala Vare Nakamadutta Shringa Andarita Hiranyakashipu Tanum Bringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Tavakara Kamala Vare Nakamadutta Shringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Jai Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Vandita Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Nrsimhare, 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 Jai Nrsimhare. Jai Nrsimhare, 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 Jai Nrsimhare. Sri Bhagavan ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.